Hello, today we are going to be learning about different unit conversions. So our goal today is to be able to use conversion factors to convert between units of measurement. Here we see some common conversion factors. These first few are going to be related to length. Here we see one that is related to mass. These ones are related to time. So there are many different units of measurement that we can use. And if we know the equivalence or how one thing equals another, we can get between the different units. So let's take a look at an example. Here, let's say we wanted to convert from 3.5 inches into centimeters. If I want to do that, I need to know how many inches are equal to how many centimeters. So first, we find the conversion factor that includes both inches and centimeters. Here, I have two examples of conversion factors that have inches. While 12 inches is equal to 1 foot, that one doesn't have centimeters and inches in it, so we can't use that one. But here, 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. That tells us how many inches are equal to how many centimeters. So to set up my problem, I'm then going to take my given value, my 3.5 inches, and I'm going to put that in the first position on this grid or chart. I'm then going to multiply by the conversion factor so that the unit I want to cancel, inches, is on a diagonal from where it is to start. That means the 1 inch is going to go on the bottom of the fraction bar. That leaves the 2.54 centimeters to go on the top of the fraction bar. By doing it this way, the inches cancels out because I have one on top of the fraction bar and one on bottom. Now that I see my problem is set up correctly, now I can solve my problem. When I type that in the calculator, I do 3.5 times 2.54. That will give me 8.89 centimeters. So the unit is the one that I have left in the problem. So now let's take a look at that in another problem. So what does this look like when I want to solve a conversion problem? So when I annotate, that's going to help me identify what I'm starting with and what I want to end in. So first thing we're going to do is circle the verb. In this case, when I have the problem, the distance from school to Target is 1.7 miles. Convert this distance into meters. So I want to convert what? The distance into meters. The distance that I'm going to box is 1.7 miles. I want to convert that into meters. So notice here, this one is boxed and starred. Then I'm going to make a plan. So what I finish in is going to go in the last box. I want to finish in meters. My starting value is going to go in the first box. Miles. Now here I have some conversion factors. This one gets me between kilometers and miles, and this one gets me between kilometers and meters. Well, what I notice is I can't go directly from miles to meters, but I could go to kilometers in the middle. So I'm going to convert from miles to kilometers to meters. So now I'm going to implement my plan. My starting value was 1.7 miles. That's going to go in the first position here. Then my plan says I wanted to go from miles to kilometers. That would use this conversion factor. Notice the 1 mile went on the bottom because that's on a diagonal with where it was in the beginning. That puts the 1.609 kilometers on the top of the fraction bar. Remember, we're multiplying these. Now I want to go from kilometers to meters. I will use this conversion factor. So now 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. The 1 kilometer gets put on the diagonal from where it is now to cancel out, and the 1,000 meters goes on top. So when I type in 1.7 times 1.609 times 1,000, that's going to equal 1,002.7 meters. I didn't include the ones because when you multiply by 1, it's going to equal what you were in before. So let's clear that ink. So let's try a new problem. First, we're going to annotate. If I want to convert 365 meters into kilometers, I'm going to box the 365 meters, and I'm going to box and star kilometers. So the kilometers goes right here, what I want to end in, and the meters goes right here. So if I want to go from meters to kilometers, I want to find what unit I start in, what unit I finish in, and this time there's no boxes in the middle. This conversion factor has meters and miles, but I want to go from meters to kilometers, so I'm not going to use this one. It does not include both units. This conversion factor includes kilometers and, oops, that should say meters. So 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. That's the one we're going to use. So now I'm going to put my starting value, which was 356 meters, in the beginning. We always write that first. In this conversion factor, I want to cancel meters. I'm going to put the meters on the diagonal. The meters part is the 1,000. That leaves the 1 kilometer to go on top. When I set it up this way and I have meters on a diagonal with meters, they cancel out. So now we can solve our problem. 356 divided by 1,000 will give me 0.356 kilometers. So again, I just do what my calculator says, 356 times 1 divided by 1,000. Last one we're going to do together. This one's a little trickier. We'll see why in just a minute. The speed limit on the highway is 65 miles per hour. That's a given piece of information. I'm going to put a box around it. Whoop, determine, let's circle that. Determine what? The speed limit in meters per minute. So I want to get to meters per minute. So I'm starting in miles per hour, and I want to get to meters per minute. Now in the middle, I want to go from, I can either switch to hours right away to minutes or miles to meters. So we're going to go miles to meters first. I can only do one unit at a time. So first I'm going to go from miles to meters. Then I'm going to go from hours to minutes. So I really only need kind of like 2 conversions in this one. Now, when I go from miles to meters, I'll use this conversion factor. When I go from hours to minutes, I'll use this one. So this time, I don't need minutes to seconds because our problem doesn't mention seconds. So I'm going to start with my 65 miles per 1 hour. Remember, that's what we boxed up top. That was what we did right here. Now I want to convert from miles to meters. This is my unit with miles and meters. I'm going to put the 1 mile on the diagonal. So that leaves 1,609 meters to go on top. That cancels miles. Now I want to get from hours to minutes on the bottom. So I need to put hours on a diagonal with it being on the bottom. This is why it's tricky, because I got a number on the bottom here. So if 1 hour equals 60 minutes and I have to put the hour on a diagonal, I need to put it on top. So the 1 hour goes here, because now it's on a diagonal with the old hour. And that leaves the 60 minutes to go here. When I have hours on the bottom and hours on top on the diagonal, they cancel out. So now I'm left with meters per minute. So let's type that in the calculator. We have 65 divided by 1. So I did that part right here. Times 1,609. That was this step. Divided by 1. Times 1. Divided by 60. And my answer did not come out correct. Let's try that again. 65 times 1,609 divided by 60. I get an answer of 1,743 meters per minute. Notice meters is left on top, minutes is left on bottom. That's why I have the fraction bar in between. Now that we've done some together, you're going to continue working on the activity on your own and we'll be able to check the key as you work. Please ask me if you have any questions.